computer, or we could simply just do it.
Are you going to be able to go? Well, you're not going to go early, though, right?
I could be there. I'll try to be there early, like probably. I can get there like 30 minutes before.
Like about 11?
Or at most, maybe as early as 10:30.
Well, I mean, how long do you think it'll take just to set up a phone for the
It's going to take long unless there's like hiccup. Well, the original try. Helping on. We're going to do a mastermind tomorrow with Westford at Guarantee Break on morning at 11:30.
That'll be a good one. That one's going to be a lot more, and there'll be lunch will be provided, and it'll be a lot more digging into the market expectations. Like we'll have some reports from like some prominent big companies, like economic situational type stuff, expectations, recession, inventory expectations, foreclosure expectations. Like we're going to be going over and going a little more in depth as to what's really expected realtors in this market, and talking about some people may not be so interested in like the numbers and statistics and data and market from an economy standpoint, but it'll still be good information to talk about.
Guarantee Break office Morton, 11:30 tomorrow.
I think it's $9.99 for it.
It's probably 9:99. It's right after Hotel 6.
$9.99 West Morton Suite.
Oh, okay.
Suite thing.
11:30.
Yeah.
All right. Ready for your can you guys hear us fine? Is this so bad? Can you guys cool? None of them are talking. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just hope that you are heardable.
Heardable?
I don't know if that's proper words to say.
I feel like like a sheep trying to be heardable.
Yeah, I'm already the name of sheep you're not following.
So we're ready?
Yes.
Anything else?
I doubt it.
Gee, this is a really important meeting for there not to be as many people showing up to the point.
Happy birthday, Jackie.
Oh,
Thank you, Ronnie.
they can't hear. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Boom. Thank you. All right. So today's meeting is for those agents that are not 100% confident or sure exactly what to say when they get a call or any kind of interaction with somebody that says, yeah, I'm interested in buying a house. Then what? What do you do? How do you handle it? You just tell them, you go straight to a lender, like what do you do in that moment? So this is pretty crucial, pretty important. It's a really good meeting. This PRE-QUAL. I actually did this myself. I sat down on the computer and just thought about like what did I say? I know that I say pretty much the same thing every time. And I typed this up. This is more or less all the topics that I hit in one conversation. After one less than 5-minute conversation, you should have a very good idea as to what this buyer is able to do. So what you want to do, this is what a lot of agents don't do, that they need to do. Successful agents who do a lot of business definitely know how to do this. But you have to, when you're talking with a buyer, you have to paint the picture as to what the overall goal is and what the path from this initial contact with this buyer to handing them keys to their new home when you close on it. You need to understand, well, not even so much handing keys, but saying congratulations, you have an offer accepted. Is even more crucial. Okay? So from the moment you talk to them to the moment that you got an offer accepted, this path, this yellow brick road, you need to know what that looks like. And you can, from 1 5-minute phone call, you're going to have about a 90% accuracy on what that path looks like. For example, if I talk to somebody on the phone and they're a first-time buyer that has $10,000 to put towards buying a house, and they have a 600 credit score, this buyer's path, yellow brick road, looks much differently than somebody who has a 780 score and has $60,000 in the bank. Those are two completely different strategies. Those are two different conversations that you have to have. And you have to, as the agent and as the expert, understand exactly what that path looks like. And it's not rocket science. It's fairly simple stuff. It's not writing Python. You start learning about a couple programs, about what some capabilities are of buyers, what you're able to do with the offer. You do that a few times, there's not like 1,000 different ways to do it. There's a couple concepts. So it's not that easy. But you can accomplish this with one phone call. So I'm just going to kind of go through this, and I'll stop at each point and kind of explain why this is in there and what it's accomplishing. So the first thing that you're going to do whenever you're interacting, whether it's you picking up the phone or meeting them and out in public, and they're like, oh yeah, you're like, yeah, we're interested in buying. This is how this conversation goes. Okay? Hi, such and such. I was told you want some information about the home buying process. Is that right? Obviously, you have some sort of indication that they are, otherwise you would be having this phone call or this interaction. And really, you ask that, that's kind of your introduction, you're coming from contribution, you're wanting information on the home buying process. So this is you coming from contribution. Hey, I got the information. I can help you with this. So they're going to say, oh yes, actually, yeah, we've been looking for a while. Whatever they're going to tell you, they're going to say that we've been thinking about it for a long time. We feel like we're ready. Blah, blah, blah. They're going to give you some version of that, like yes. They're going to tell you basically yes. And then you're going to say, okay, great. Then you're going to ask, are you already in the process or am I your first phone call? That's going to let you know. Without asking, are you working with another agent already? This answers that for you. Because they're going to tell you, nope, you're my first phone call. Then you know there's no other agent. You know that they're not pre-qualified. You know that they're not with the lender. You're the very first phone call. Or, this is also the moment that they'll say, we've been looking for a while, and we've written a few offers and can't get anything accepted. Their response is going to tell you what you need to know if you're working with another agent, if you're already pre-qualified. Because when you ask, are you working with another agent, or are you pre-qualified, those aren't coming from contribution. Those are questions that make a person feel like you're out for yourself. Like, what? You're going to talk to me if I have these things, and it's going to put pressure on them to feel like not ready for that conversation because they're not coming to the table with something for you. So you don't really want to ask this. You can accomplish getting those same questions answered by asking them. Am I the first person? Are you already in the process, or are you first phone call? Okay? And then you're going to set the tone of the conversation. So this is you being in the driver's seat. You're on the ship. You're steering the ship right now, and you're going to look like the expert by taking control of this conversation and putting them at ease. Like, okay, cool. He or she's gonna let me, is gonna answer some questions and feel good about this. So you're gonna let them know. Okay, I'm gonna ask you these questions and give you some information about the process so you can get more familiar with what to expect. Then I can have to answer any questions that you have about the process at that time. They're gonna say, great, yeah, sure, yeah, sure. And then you're gonna ask, go your questions. So now they know that you're gonna ask some questions. And they're also expecting you to give a little bit of background on what this process looks like. So you're going to start off. You're going to say, okay, so are you going to do this alone? Are you buying this yourself, or is there a wife involved? Is there, who is it? So you're gonna say, are you planning on purchasing on your own, or is there someone else that's gonna be purchasing? Why is that important?
Who are the decision makers in the process?
Well, but also, who do we need to qualify? I'm identifying who do we need to qualify? Because the following questions are going to be, I need to know, is it just you, or is it you and your wife? Or you and your husband? Are there 2 incomes? Is there 2 credit scores I gotta worry about, or is there just one? Okay. So I'm identifying who it is that needs to be qualified. Who am I dealing with that needs to be qualified? Do you know approximately what your credit scores are? That's going to let you know right off the bat, regardless of what their job is, regardless of how much money they have, regardless of anything. Right now, when they tell me an estimate of what their credit scores are, they tell you, I actually don't know what it is. Well, what's an estimate? What do you think you're at? Like 600, 580, 700? I mean, like, you get a guess where you think you'd be at. Pull something out of them, because chances are, usually they don't have any idea, they usually have an idea. Who doesn't have some sort of idea where your credit score is? Everybody does. So, this is going to let you know that, okay, they tell you 600, but oh, let's start with keep that picture. I'm putting that path together. Okay, we're at 600, we say 70, oh, we're in the low 70s. Like, oh, the higher it is, the more flexibility they're going to have. Okay, so, because when they go to a lender, the lender's going to, before they can do anything else, the first thing the lender is going to do is run their application and see what their credit scores are. If their credit scores are not at a minimum threshold, then nothing else matters. So that's where I'm going to start. You know where your credit scores are at. And if they tell me that they're mid to low 5s, my answer to them is like, okay. So what I can do is my lender can set up a time with people. I was talking to the family member right now. I would say, let's get yourself on a habit. But we want to, they have a system, the lender has a system that can plug in all your information and do a project if you pay this off or pay that off, what will be your credit score, or project what your scores will be, and then a lender can give you a path. So I'm coming for contribution, letting them know, hey, this lender is going to be able to plug in your information and tell you what you do. So instead of floundering life without any kind of a goal on buying a house, you can at least have a road map for yourself to get qualified. And it also lets me know that this conversation doesn't need to go further with all these other questions because it doesn't matter. Okay? So I'm going to identify the credit scores. Then I'm going to say, do you have any money to put down? Why? Why does that matter? Why do I care if you have money to put down? That's going to determine if I need a program or not. And it's also going to determine what kind of offer I'm going to do. I know in this market, chances of me getting closing costs are not great. So, if they have $10,000 and they have a 650 credit score, and my mind automatically goes to this road that I'm building that says, okay, $10,000 we pay their closing costs, and we get a program to pay their down payment. Done. Now I know what goes. Or if they find something where I can get their closing costs, like if they have a 600 credit score or a 590 credit score, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're not qualified for a program. They're going to have to I'm going to have to get closing costs, and the 10,000 is going to be their down payment. Okay, now I'm creating that road. And on this phone call, in the middle of this phone call, I am thinking about all this. So now I know what I'm going to do to get offers. If something hits the market new, can this person go look at it and have a chance of getting it? No! Not on something that's new. Because most of your stuff that's new, that shows really well, you're not going to get closing costs. I know that in this market. It's for me to get their closing costs paid for, I automatically know that it needs to be something that's been on the market for at least a couple of weeks, no offers. This seller will consider closing costs, paying closing costs for a buyer. So now, when I'm talking to this buyer, I'm going to let them know that. I'm going to set an expectation from the very, very beginning. I'm going to let them know. Okay, so I'm going to give you some information really quick. So on this, and actually I'll ask a couple more questions and then I'll set their expectation. So, am I taking notes on this phone call? Okay. 5 credit score, 10 grand put down. Okay, next question. Are you both employed? What's your job status? Okay, if so, how long have you been working there? So if they have a 780 credit score, we can use 1 year section. If they have, if they're in the 700, if we go conventional, we can do 1 year section. If they have really good credit score, they have a lot of money put down, and they have some rockstar job, they only started a year ago or a year and a half ago, we had one tax return to use, we're good, we're still good, we're good. If they're at 620, same, everything else is the same, but 620 credit score, I know I need 2 years tax returns, now I know, hey, but we need 2 years. Unless the previous year was in a similar, then I want to know, okay, what field are you in right now, what field were you in before? And I'm asking that because if you're in the same field, it doesn't have to be that same employer. I've actually been in escrow, had that guy lose his job in the middle of escrow. He got another job days later, and we just needed like a 7-day extension, and we were still in work. We needed like 30 days of stuff. It happened like when we first opened escrow, so we were able to get 30 days of stuff, so we needed a small extension. So, but understanding the details of this specific buyer is going to determine what kind of offer I can write. Based on the offer I can write, will determine what houses I'm looking at. You're going to ask something?
Yeah. So what happens is like because of COVID, they didn't have offices. We had like one scenario pretty much like for last year, half the year, worked with COVID, and then because when I worked pretty much like off and stuff, so like
First period of time.
Yeah.
So for 6 months off, you don't have to be you know exactly. So you'll talk to the lender, like it's like if you're off for 6 months, you have to be back for like 3 months or something like that. If you're off for a year, you have to be back 6 months. I think you can be out as long as 2 years and then come back to work for 6 months and then you're fine. In fact, I didn't know that. I have some people that I went to talk to that I have been working for years. It's been years. He's been living off of like fixed income. And he hasn't worked all the time. He can't. I talked to Wes said, 6 months. You just have to go back to work. And he had 6 months worth of history back away. So so understanding the work side, also like if they're a truck driver, okay, that's different. Okay, how do you get paid now? Do you get paid commissions? Do you get paid by the mile? Do you get W-2? Are you an independent contractor, owner operator? Like what's that? Those are different qualifications. That lender is going to be, if they're W-2, easy peasy, good, let's rock and roll with it. If you're getting paid by the mile, and plus a little wage, plus, by the mile, and I've seen them so many different ways, like percentage of the load, then they have to get averages over a certain amount of time to be able to come up with qualified income to be able to use. So lenders, you don't have to know the details of all that, but you know that there's something there and the lenders need to look at, then you can kind of prepare the lender, and you know that it's going to take a little bit extra time. It's not going to be this easy, straightforward thing. What's up, Bob? So understanding the employment situation, because if they tell you, I've been in my job for 10 years, slam, burning down. Yeah, 10 years to be there, or if they own their own business and they own their own business for a year. Okay, if your credit score, we can probably go off 1 year tax return right now for conventional. If they own their own business, in fact, I don't even know if you can actually with 1 year own your own business. I think you still have that 2 years.
If they're like shy of 2 years, and the credit is your own business, but in some cases, they'll let you stretch out like those months into the 1 more month.
Yeah. So if you've been, in business for 1 year and we have some income for 1 year, they still need 2 years worth, so they'll average that 1 year and 2 years. So it's gonna look like you'll give them half what you actually did. You'll stretch it over 2 years. So. But anyways, you don't have to memorize all this stuff. You just have to understand the little red flags, the things that the lender's going to get involved to go over. So, and you should be able to get to 90 percentile of understanding of something. You know, and even if you know that there's going to be some stuff that might be a little questionable, but they have a good credit score, they've got a lot of money put down, you still will know, like, hey, there's a good chance we're going to be able to do something with this person. Like, we should be able to do something. But it's not something that's like, you know, I'm going to be able to get them into something. This pre-qual is going to be done in a day. And sometimes they can. If they submit their information, upload their docs, you can have a pre-qual same day. If it's an easy W-2, been there for a long time, it's cut and dry, and it's got a couple of items they can upload to verify, and you can have a pre-qual same day. But sometimes, if you're needing to average, and you're needing to send some of the income documents to like the underwriter, and run it through like this third-party system, so they can calculate how much income is actually usable, and blah, 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 blah. That could take a week or two to be able to submit that stuff, get some answers on that.
For the flag, someone saying that they're relocating, what key questions do you ask in regards to their?
They're relocating here? Okay, so if they tell me that they live in currently live in Texas, and they're going to be relocating here, the lender's going to need a start date. The commitment letter and a start date. So as long as you have a start date that's within, I think it's like 60 days or something like that, if they don't close, you'll be able to use that income. But they're going to also, they are going to need the notices, but they're going to need to know, okay, how are you getting paid? If you're, because this is the other thing that can get a little bit tricky. If you're, even if you're an independent contractor, been doing it for a while, like at the hospital, as like some sort of a nurse, if the lender orders a verification of employment and comes back and as a temporary, there may be some problems there. They're going to need that reordered. You know, if you're technically a temporary employee, like you've been there for 3 years, if that DOE comes back at a temporary position, you're going to have some problems. So these are all things that we'll learn over time, but you want to get as much information, and this information is going to give you a good feeling, 90% likelihood of where you think this is going to be, whether they're going to be good to go, like you don't know for how much, or you know, they're going to be good to go, or they're not going to be good to go. You know, you're going to have some really good pulse on what this fire looks like in this phone call. Have you thought about the maximum pay that you'd like to stay within? Okay, so now you're going to take a note and ask. You want to see how realistic these people are. Okay, so say we're coming through this. It's a person purchasing on their own. And they say that their credit score is in the low 700. And then they say they've got $20,000 in bank, or $25,000 in bank. And their employment's only really good. Like if they've been at their job for 3 years and they're W-2 and they make good income, blah, blah, blah. Now, we know that they're qualified based on information. We're solid. We already know this is slam dunk. Now, I want to know, where do you want your maximum payment to be? If they tell you $1,200 a month, where they want their payment at, and they've only got the minimum to put down, and they're wanting a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath out in the country. This is resetting expectations time. Not possible. Not even doable. Don't even want to mess with these people if this is where they're going to be stuck at. So we don't just call them up. We reset their expectations. So we're going to tell them. So we want to know where approximately where they want their payment to be at. And then us, being the professionals that we are, we're going to have an idea. And if you're like me, you'll actually go on this I have a guaranteed rate app. I'm sure if you're on your tabs too, or you have some way of getting some estimates at different price points or something like that. You can, if you don't have an app that has a calculator on it, you can always, before your phone call, talk to a lender and get some numbers at different price points. Like get it at 200 or 250, 350, 4, something like that. That way, in front of you, at least doesn't take that long for them to do it, and you'll at least have an idea. And then, if you have somebody says, oh, I want a $2,000 payment, you can go to your little sheets and see the one that's closest to 2,000, and then you can adjust it $7 for 2,000. So, 5 minutes. So, I would come on here, if they said, as soon as I got asked that question, I'm going to say pulled up, and they're going to tell me, I'm not going to pay you 2,000. Okay, and I'm going to immediately come over here to my down payment, knowing that they're gonna go, let's just say, 3.5% down. So that's going to be 12 grand, 3.5% down, and I know they're going to have their closing costs and maybe the interest rates. I know those. What is that right now? So I'm going to come to 5.175. I'm going to come down over here. I'm going to do my property tax at 1.1. This is 12.1.5. I wish I could change that default so I don't have to do that every time. And then I'm at 2,500. Now I'm going to move this until I get my $2,000 payment. 1960 is 270. Now I know in the high 200s, this person wants their payment to be in the high, it's going to be high 200s purchase price wise. And then I'm going to say, what are you looking for? And at this price point, if they tell me it doesn't need to be anything fancy, just a small little home with a little lot, and their expectations aren't great, bam, we're on and on. I know we can do this. You know, they're coming from out of area, it's just me and my husband.
What did you say the price was? 270?
At 270, your payment would be 19. That would be the 3.5% down. Actually, that's FHA. FHA is going to be a little better. Wes he just did one. Actually, he did one for a deal we had in escrow. The FHA, he just locked it in another week ago, paying 1 point, he was able to get down to 4.5% interest rate. So at that interest rate, and this is going to show you how crazy it changes, right? It goes from a 1960 to 1760. So now let's see what kind of purchase power level. We're at 270. Let's get back up to 2000. 2008, we're at 310. So that's $40,000. Just not even straight. $40,000 in purchase power. Going from a 575 to a 4.5. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what are they wanting? They're wanting a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom. I'm rocking and rolling. If they tell me $2,000 and they want at least a 4-bedroom and needs to have a pool and it needs to be at least 2,000 square feet, then I'm going to readjust their expectations on this initial phone call. I'm going to readjust it. I have to get them in this phone call. I have to get them to understand where their price point is and where reality is, and I have to be ballpark with that. I don't have to be exactly on it if they're a little bit high. I also know that historically, when somebody tells you that this is where I want my payment, and they start to do a little analysis, what happens for that payment? They're like, well, 2,200. You know, 2,200 is not so bad. I do it, if I had everything, I'll give you 2,500. You know, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, all right, that's not bad, okay. That happens very frequently. Like, more often than not, they'll tell me whatever their initial payment is, that's what their hoping is, that's what their dream is to have this payment, right? And almost always it goes up. Almost always. Not every time, but almost always it goes. And usually when it doesn't go up, it's either because they're maxed out with their lender, that's the max, and they just told you what the max is or something. Or they are really smart. They look at all the numbers ahead of time. They know exactly where they need to be, and they're like budgeting masters. Like that doesn't happen that often, but every now and then you get somebody that's got all their shit straight. They're like, no, this is the max that they do. They stick to it, but it's not that common. Most of the time, 80% of the time, they go up. Unless they're realistic from the beginning. You know, sometimes you're dealing with like, we can have a payment of $3,000, and all we need is a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and you have to get a great area. And it's like, oh, for sure, you know, I'll be able to beat that. You know, I can beat that. And they're gonna love me. I'm gonna look like a rock star. I'm gonna get a $2,500 payment and be in a good area. And probably have a bigger house and everything. So, but by asking these questions, you're identifying all this. You're creating this road. How hard is this going to be? What's the expectation? Are they going to qualify? What are the chances of qualifying? Are they going to qualify? And then what they're looking for, is it going to be in their price range? The other reason is if they tell me their income, for example, so the follow-up question is, if you thought about what your payment is, follow-up question is, can you describe to me the time? that's where you're kind of setting the expectation. The other part that I can probably adjust on here a little bit is you don't always get into this, but if they go into asking you questions about how much do you think I'll qualify for or anything like that, then you can go down this rabbit hole, which is generally speaking, the lender will let you go up to 45% of the income ratio. I can actually walk through this for you. It takes like 2 minutes for us to figure out what's your gross income monthly. $4,000 a month? Okay, cool. That's 45% of $4,000 a month. That's 3,000. 2,200, right? Something like that. Okay, 2,200. Now I'm minus off all your payments. If I were to pull your credit card now, but you have credit cards, car payments. So I'm at 2,200. No car payment. You got a couple credit cards. Okay, so we're at 2,200 minus $100 from credit card. These people are locally filed. They're going to qualify for a $2,100 payment. And I know that $2,100 payment. I do my calculator. I'm in the range. And you can kind of let them know this is my. It's not. I'm just estimating this. Just off, just briefly, you know. You can do that, and then maybe they can go up to 50% for the income ratio, depending on their situation. But through this, you're going to get all that information, and then after you get all ask these questions and get this information, you could even honestly, before you even make the phone call, you can write these questions down and have a line next to it and take notes on all of this stuff. But understand what you're asking, why you're asking it, and internalize this. Know exactly what you're getting. Know exactly how to build that path. And then analyze and set expectations. So after you've asked these questions, analyze everything, you know exactly where we're at. If they look like they're going to qualify and their expectations of what they're looking for is fits in the price range that I know this is doable, then you're going to let them know, hey, so okay, so based on all the information that you're giving me, I feel really strongly that you're not going to probably qualify. And also feel like I can find you what you're looking for in that. So in the example of them telling you 3,000 and they want something very simple, I'm not going to, oh, this is my done, I'm going to for sure get no. I'm not giving those cards, I'm not showing those cards. Okay? I'm thinking that in my head, but I want to keep them there. Because I know if I keep them there, I'm going to really exceed their expectations. If I tell them, oh, I can totally they don't want to do that much. Now I'm resetting their expectations to make my job harder. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let them think that $3,000 is their payment. Let them think that they're not going to, you might be able to find them something, and all of a sudden you start showing them houses, and they're like, oh, this is better than I thought. This is great. Wow, this is nice. This is good too. Wow, okay, this agent's good to me, and this is good stuff. You know, get a look. So in that situation, you're just gonna let them know. I feel like I'm confident you're gonna qualify. I'm confident that I can find you something that you're gonna be happy with, and the price point is gonna be happy. First step is getting pre-qualified, getting over to my lender. I really want you to understand, before we start looking, I want you to understand your numbers and what. Very important to me as a realtor that all my clients know their numbers. What I really don't want to happen is I go out, I show you this house, you fall in love with it, and then you look at the numbers and you're like, you can't do that. I don't want you to be in that situation. I want you to be prepared, educated, and knowledgeable on where you need to be at price-wise, so that way when we start to look at houses, you know exactly where we're at. And every time I tell somebody that, one, it's going to be contributions, so it makes it look like I care, like you care. So it makes it look like you care about these people. And when you do that, I've never had anybody tell me, no, I don't want to know numbers. Who's going to tell you that? Nobody will tell you that. So it's a really good, easy way for them to be like, okay, cool, let's keep going on that. And then they give me some sort of an objection like, well, before I talk to the lender, I kind of wanted to, before I get qualified, I kind of wanted to, maybe look and see what's out there or something like that. You can say, or maybe I'm not quite ready or something like that. I want to do something else. I can just say, look, we can do it however we want, but knowing this business, I highly suggest that if I was talking to my brother right now or my sister right now, it is not going to hurt you to talk to the lender, have all your numbers all figured out, because if you're planning on paying something off, maybe you talk to the lender and maybe you do your plan is going to hurt your credit. Like, so this is going to be your foundation. You're not going to have to keep redoing it. You're not going to have to keep redoing it. If it takes 6 months to find something, you're not going to have to keep doing it. You'll just do it once initially, they'll run your credit, and then if it's expired, then until you get it in escrow, they'll update it in escrow then. So it's not like you have to every 3 months keep getting your credit pulled to see if you qualify. No. You're good when you first do it. We're shopping. Once we're in escrow, yes, they will update it because they have to, the scores and everything have to be within, I think, 90 days or something like that, or 60 days. So, but you just let them know, hey, reality is it's in your best interest to, legitimately is in your best interest to get pre-qualified right now, or at least have the lender look at your situation, so that way we know where we're at. You don't want to wait until you think you're ready, then you pull it, then you realize you're not, then it's going to be a real letdown. So it's really, and then you don't ever want them to go to the lender. You always ask them when a good time, when do you want my lender to call you? The reason for that is it keeps the ball in your foot. If you're waiting for them to get around to doing something, it's a shot in the dark. They may do it, they may not, they may never even hear from them again. But if you can, while you have them on the phone, if you can set up a time that your lender can call, you don't need to talk to your lender first. If you have somebody that you think is solid, that is telling you that I can take a call and get qualified at 3 o'clock today, you're calling your lender up and saying, hey, whatever you got going on at 3, you're going to cancel it because you're calling this person. They're hot. This is their situation. They've got this going on, that going on. This is where they think their credit score's at. This is their job. This is where they want their payment. This is going to be a slam dunk. 3 o'clock, sharp. Boom. And then after you call them and have a conversation with them, you're going to call me. Let me out the way. You good? Cool. You're going to set a reminder in your calendar, 30 minutes from that appointment at 3:30. You got a person that money, you're calling them up, what's going on? You're your phone up. So, when you have somebody that's hot, you actually want to see if you can get them on the phone ASAP, and you're going to blow your lender's phone up until they answer and they make that call immediately. You want to get a resident right in there. But this conversation takes all of about 5 minutes. We can go longer if they have a lot of questions and you get into it. And you're going to do this enough to where you're not going to need this. I don't need this. I can sit down and type this out just to think about it. And I just kind of put it through. So it's easy. Call them up, find out, find your first phone call, and lay the land on that. And it's who's going to be on the loan, you or your spouse. Just you, okay, cool. You know your credit score at? Okay. Awesome. What's your job situation look like? How much money do you have to put down? Your job, how long is that your job? Ask some job questions. That's it. You're getting all that. What kind of pay do you want? What do you think you're looking for? And there you go. Down payment, what's their monthly payment, all this detail. Enough information that we can think this out, exactly how we're going to get this person's offer accepted. Whether it be a house that's on the market for a couple weeks with no offers, so I actually closing costs, or I've got a down payment assistance program, so the money they have is going to pay for their closing costs, or they've got a big chunk of money put down, or maybe they own a house. They own a house. What do you do in that situation? You're talking to them, well, we're going to sell this house, and we're going to, okay. Then you got a house. Okay, well, first step if you want a house is what I want to do, and I want to be able to provide you a next sheet so we can know how much money we're going to have to put on rolling over to your next house. So this is very common, we do this all the time. The way it works is I sell your house, I get yours in escrow, it's going to be contingent on finding another property. And that property offer is going to be contingent upon selling your house. We're both going to be contingent on each other. We're going to close them both the same day, and then you're going to have 5 days after close to move from this house to your new house. So it all happens at once. You don't have to spend money on a storage unit. You don't have to do it twice. This is how the process goes. First step is let's find out how much money you have, and then if you don't want to use the whole amount, all of it, you don't have to, but we'll have that discussion. Do you want to roll all this over, or do you want to keep some of it to pay off debt, How much do we have to play with? So for me to know what the net sheet looks like, I need to come out and look at your house. And then whenever I come up, so we give you a value, and then we're gonna give you a net sheet based on that value, that's gonna show you how much money that you're gonna be able to roll over. And then, after we have that in place, then we can look at loan scenarios based on that much money that you want to put there on your next one. We'll look at loan scenarios. We'll look at several different loan scenarios. Okay? Maybe they've got a lot of money and they get more bang for their buck by buying down their interest rate. Maybe that's what we do. Maybe they don't. Maybe they have 15% down. That's really where their sweet spot is. Okay, we're gonna put 15 down, and then we're gonna buy out the IRA, and then maybe even buy down the interest rate a little bit. There's a couple things we can do with these numbers to get this payment as low as possible for payment sensitive. So it's just follow a puzzle piece. You got to put the puzzle together that creates that picture. Any questions? You're here, you've never done this before. When you get in a situation, you have this memorized, or you come into a hiccup and you're not sure exactly how to handle it, what do? Call Chris. What do you do on the phone call though? What if you're on the phone call and something comes across you start to freak out? What do you do? Continue gathering as much information as possible. Don't tell them that you don't know what's going on with the scenario. Just continue on with it. Give the limited information that you can give. Don't give false information, but if there's something that you are comfortable with, give them and tell them, okay, so what I'm going to do is let me talk with my lender, ask a couple questions based on your information, and I'll call you right back in the next half hour, so that time that down. I'll have a little bit more information for you. Yeah, never lost anybody because I couldn't give them an answer right then and there. Never once. If I ever lost them, I think so don't freak out. Carry the confidence on your shoulders of, I don't care what happens right now. Nothing can happen that I can't overcome with a couple phone calls. Whether it's Chris, Sarah, Jackie, we're gonna figure out whatever the situation is. Ask your lender, whoever the lender is, whatever the case may be. Nothing can happen when you can't do that. Carry that confidence with you. Be confident in that. Are you sure you're supposed to have sugar? I'm not supposed to, what? Yeah, sir. Golly. Diabetes. Any questions? That?
Yeah, Chris, the scenario sounds great and everything. So I'm sure some lenders are probably better than others. So not, I'm making on this list that, we have right here. So when we talk to my lender, it's not, is it appropriate to ask, like, maybe get the Jackie or you or somebody like, hey, who would you recommend as a lender we go with?
Yeah, absolutely.
The last guy was something that's maybe not very good. And then,
absolutely. We have an MSA. Responsible, I just moved into another. So I just have an option because my whole personality. So my sister-in-law, for instance, she's a very strong character. So I had reverse us where we put her with one lender and they butted heads really bad. But the next time I moved her to a different lender and she's used that lender like 5 different times already. Like they just work so well together. And so I usually do take that into account. Like, especially too, like, I have a wide range of my clients where a lot of those are workers, along with those that are more established, a wide range. So I usually try to connect them based on personalities too, and who can handle them. So, this is what I recommend for any new real estate agent is we've been given a list
I just sent you a video screen.
Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to interview lenders. So when I first started, this is what I did. Everybody can do their own thing, but this is what I highly recommend. Interview lenders. So before you go in and make the calls, write down things that you need in this lender. Okay, this is a partnership. These are the people that are going to be in the trenches working with you on a daily basis. You have to feel comfortable with this lender. You have to gel well with this lender. You have to set your expectations of that lender with the lender. So you interview them, ask your advice on a couple of these people, or say, hey, I'm looking for somebody that's going to have like this personality that's going to be a little bit like this. We'll give you a number of them that are going to work with that. And then interview them. Don't just go with them. Interview them yourself, because these are people that are going to interview to be your lender. And you can have one. You can absolutely have one. For our team, I gave you guys like three. We got like three. And I say, hey, use whoever you want. You can use whoever you want. These are the people that I like, and interview them. Figure out who's gonna work best with you. Who do you gel with?
They work initially for your benefit.
Yeah, Chris said the foundation. So what are we doing at 3 o'clock? Or drop it.
Yeah, no, these lenders, I'm not saying that what I did corrected that all the time, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Have you ever had, whenever you're a lender, did you ever have an agency being asked you?
Well, you kind of control the whole deal up there, once you read the contract and get it done on the lending side, they need to be pretty on top of it. And even just the pre-qual side too, because some people don't get their documents in there and all that. Yeah, you're not someone that's calling it and really obviously sometimes you get people, a lender, a lead, and you won't hear anything. If it doesn't work out, you still want to know, like, oh, they didn't get approved.
Yeah. Understanding that you're partners, but they need you more than you need them. And